What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for tuning in. So today we have a pretty quick video for you guys. It's been a pretty busy day and I don't have a lot of time to work on a big project. So we're going to knock out something that I've been thinking about doing for a little while that shouldn't take too long. If you're new here, the truck you see behind me is kind of the main highlight of the channel at this point. 2000 7.3 liter Powerstroke with a whole lot of stuff done to it. If you haven't seen any of it, I encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss out on seeing the old stuff and seeing the new stuff as it comes out. Of course, now that I come outside to film a video, it starts to rain. Typical Oregon, as soon as you want to go out and actually do something, it starts to rain. It was super nice earlier today. Maybe I should have done that earlier. But I actually had to take care of some business this morning, and then I got a fundraiser to go to tonight. So, like I said, we have a pretty short window to get something done, but I needed to get a video out for you guys. So we're going to be working on a quick project today. So what we're going to be doing today, as I'm sure you can tell by the title of the video, is we're going to be actually hooking up the heated function for my tow mirrors. Now, these aren't new mirrors on the truck. I've had them on there for about a year. Most of you guys have probably seen them already at this point. But they are, let me show you. They are 2017 plus style mirrors like you see on the Super Duties. Fully powered, fully lit, and just a much nicer mirror. So when I installed them, I actually built an entire harness for it. My truck didn't come with power mirrors from the factory, and so I ended up building a harness to go from the right side to the left side up to the controller. It all looks like a factory setup. I just had to wire the whole thing with myself, which honestly wasn't too bad. It just took some time of figuring out which wires go where and what run what. So I absolutely love the mirrors. They're phenomenal. You get a much better line of sight looking back. You can just see a whole lot more behind you, and I think they look pretty darn good. When I wired them up, like I said, I wired up the entire power function to it, so they're all power adjustable like your factory mirrors would be. I wired up the amber running lights, which I think look pretty cool, but a couple things I left out and didn't do at the time was wiring up the heat function and the white clearance lights. I don't think I'm going to hook up the white clearance lights. It's really starting to rain now. Of course it is. Let me go into the garage real quick. Alright, so like I was saying, I didn't end up hooking up the heated function or the white running lights. I don't think I plan on hooking up the white running lights or clearance lights, whatever you want to call them. They look alright, it just doesn't kind of go with the style I have on the truck right now. But I would like to hook up the heated mirror function now that it's halfway through winter. There's been a few times where it would have been nice to have some heated mirrors on the truck, so it shouldn't be too long of a project. If you guys have been around the channel, you see I already wired up a whole fuse block and switch kind of assembly for the truck, kind of an upfitter switch assembly for the truck, and I'm going to actually be hooking up the heated mirror functions to one of those switches. I went back and forth deciding on whether I wanted to hook it up to a switch or hook it up to the factory setting, so when I turn on the defrosters, the heated mirrors turn on, and maybe down the road I'll end up doing that if I need to open up the switch to have another option. But right now I have 4 switches. I'm only using one of them, so I figured the quickest and easiest solution would just be to hook it up to a switch and run them off that. Then I can turn them on and off whenever I want. Most of the wiring is already done. I just need to pretty much run it into the engine bay and plug it into the switch plug. So let me kind of show you, see if I can show you how the wiring is run right now. It's going to be kind of hard to see because it's tucked up under the dash, but we're going to get to work. Alright, ignore how completely filthy the truck is. It hasn't been washed in a couple weeks, and when it rains every single day, it gets a little messy. Alright, so here you guys go. Like I said, I wired up the mirrors to the switch just like the factory harness would be. I wanted to make it look as factory as possible. There's a little bit of a look at what the mirrors look like from your perspective. I actually have a whole video on the install of these mirrors. It's not incredibly detailed, but it does show the install. All the wiring harnesses connect to this switch where I can power it from there. It runs down through the boot and then into the cab, and then of course I have a harness coming from that mirror all the way across behind the dash up underneath here, which now I'll show you what it looks like underneath. So this is basically what it looks like, or what I have under the dash. These have just been tucked away for a while. I believe this is the white clearance lights, and I think I made it white wire because of the white lights, and I believe this is the gray wire is for the heated. So really all I have to do is unhook this. I'll probably hook it up to the test battery right here just to make sure, And then once I know which wire is which, I will run these into the cab into the engine bay and wire them up to my fuse and relay block. So let me undo these wires and test them out, and then I'll probably show you guys just what these white lights look like. They look pretty cool, so I'll show you guys that. Alright guys, got all the wires undone, hooked up to the batteries, and the gray wire is the heated wire function. So I was pretty sure it was, but it doesn't hurt to check. This red wire is actually the power wire for the whole system that I have a add-a-fuse right there that I don't really like. This is the add-a-fuse for my AirDog pump, the top one, which at some point I want to hook that up to the factory line as well. But I think right now I'm going to be running this to the fuse block as well. Instead of powering it off of this factory fuse block and having an add-a-fuse, I'm going to run this in and actually get that fused onto the fuse block as well, while I run these wires. Just figure I'll do that while I'm in here, and I think I should have enough wiring to run this to the fuse block. It's not a very large span, especially from where the wires come out. There's actually the hole that I run all my wiring through is right up there. For those of you that may not know, automatic trucks have a big cutout in the firewall. That's a great place to run wires. That cutout is normally where the clutch pedal runs through and all the stuff connects through the firewall. Obviously with an automatic clutch or an automatic truck, you don't have a clutch pedal, and so that is where I run all my powering through. All the different wires I have going through the firewall all goes through that plug, and it's literally is right up kind of below the master cylinder on the firewall, right up in this top corner area. Easy to get to and tons of room to run wiring through. Makes it nice and easy instead of putting a bunch of holes and grommets through your firewall. So I'm going to cut off this add-a-fuse and run the wiring through the firewall, and then we can cut to length once it's actually in the engine bay. Alright guys, we got it all wired up under the hood. As you saw, or hopefully saw, I relocated the power wire for the whole mirror harness to here. And then I got the switch hooked up in the cab to this relay right here, which will then turn on and power the gray wire that runs back into the harness over to the mirrors. So this should be on right now. We're going to give it a little bit of time and see if I can notice them starting to warm up. Hopefully it'll all work good. But yeah, this is one of the big reasons I built this whole assembly. It's not 100% the prettiest thing, but it's functional and it works, and it makes it easy to add on stuff like this. Ignore this bundle of wires. I need to clear this up. It's all the wirings for my sensors that I've added. But yeah, here's the whole fuse block assembly. If you haven't seen this, I have a whole series on building this, kind of more in depth on how it works and how I went about building it. Nothing complicated, but if you're interested, go check it out. Again, there are those pretty downpipes, all nice and powder coated. Old girl sitting pretty under the hood. Alright, so let's give the mirrors a little bit of time and see if they warm up. Well, alright guys, we got it all wrapped up and it is working very well. Had a little bit of a dumb moment in the install, so I figured I'd share it with you. I'm not perfect. Editing makes it seem like I do better than I am, but I still make plenty of stupid mistakes. I knew which switch I wanted to use, and so I went inside the cab, flipped the switch, then went out under the hood to see which relay was getting flipped because I don't have them labeled. I know, but I don't have them labeled. But it's just 4 relays to check, so it's just like flip the switch, see which relay's set in power. Went out under the hood, tested them all. None of them were working. I'm like, what the heck? So I went and flipped a different switch, went out, tested them all. None of them were working. I'm like, come on, did I really mess something up inside my wiring harness last time I had the dash apart? And so I got out the test light and went through and started testing all the different connections, and all the different connections were showing good. I'm like, what the heck? And went back out under the hood, looked at my fuse block, and realized, oh, I didn't have any fuses in any of the relay spots except for the one I'm already using. And so without a fuse in the relay spots, they're not getting power, and they're not going to show any power coming through them. Yeah. Nice dumb moment right there. Cost me probably another hour. But it is what it is. It's all hooked up now. It's all working great. The fuse and relay block worked exactly as it should. All the wiring harnesses worked exactly as they should. If it wasn't for that dumb mistake, I would have been done with this pretty darn quickly. But either way, got it all hooked up. I'm glad to have the whole mirror harness powered off the fuse block now instead of just tapped into another fuse. I'm not really opposed to those fuse taps. They have their places and purposes, but to me, I'd rather not use them. The factory just designed all the different systems in the truck to run how they're supposed to run, and so adding on different accessories to the systems probably isn't the end of the world. It's drawing a really little a very small amount of power from it, but if I can get away with not doing that, I would prefer to. So good to have that hooked up that way. Like I said, the mirrors are working great. Let me show you the switch, and then, I can't really show you the heat of the mirrors. The whole heat gun, another stupid moment, doesn't work. It's not going to take any reading off a mirror because the reading just bounces off the mirror. But I felt it with my hands. They're heating up nice and warm. Should make a nice difference on these cold, wet mornings. Just help kind of clear up the mirrors a little bit faster. So let me show you the switches. Then I'll give you a look at the mirrors, and we'll call it good. So many of you guys have probably seen these already. This is my switch panel that I built. Kind of just an upfitter switch. I don't have the automatic hubs, and so I decided to just use this spot for all my switches. Ignore the fact that this is crooked. Oh, there we go. So now that's straight. Built this a little while back. I don't know how long ago. I have a whole video series on it. It's nothing fancy, just kind of a nice upfitter switch panel with that attached to that fuse block that I showed under the hood. Nothing crazy. It just kind of makes things a little convenient. And I wanted to build one, so I did. Pretty sweet. Right now I have my fog lights hooked up on that switch. These 2 switches are not hooked up to anything at the moment. And now we have that switch hooked up to the heated mirrors. Which are those? Yes, they are very dirty. Hopefully, I don't know if this will help or not, but hopefully this will help clear the water off the mirrors so it doesn't dry on as much. I don't know. It might not do that at all. It may just help defrost it a little bit faster, but they're working. You can take my word for it. Nice and heated. Tested that one too. Works well. If you guys are interested, I did do a video on these mirrors, and I do have them linked in the video description. I'm pretty darn happy with them. They're definitely not OEM quality, but they have done pretty well so far. I've been running them for a year. Haven't had a single issue with them. Like I said, I wired them up to the power, and so if I wanted to adjust them, I can, which is pretty sweet because my truck didn't come with power mirrors. And so I went through and built the whole harness from that side all the way underneath to this side up to the switch. I did a little bit of overkill on wiring size, but I wasn't quite sure, and so I figured I'd go with a little bit larger size wire. I think I used 16 gauge. Probably could have gone with 18 gauge. But yeah, it was just kind of one of those products. When I built the whole wiring harness for this, I wired in all the heat and everything for them. I just didn't know how I wanted to hook them up. Another way I thought about hooking it up was once I switch it to one of these defrost settings, I tap into that and have it flip the relay, but I'm actually not sure if these are electrical. I know the systems on these use vacuum pressure, but I don't know if it's completely vacuum pressure or it's half vacuum, half electrical. I didn't really feel like digging into it, and I had extra switch spots open, so I figured I'd just tie it into one of those for now. If down the road I end up needing all of these switches, which I don't think I'm going to, maybe I'll look at hooking it up a different way, but for now, running it to the switch underneath the hood, super easy. So there you go, guys. Not a crazy video this weekend. Like I said, I didn't have a ton of time, so I picked one of the little projects that I've been putting off and got it done. It'll be nice to have it done. I'll be curious to see how much of an effect it has on the cold, wet mornings. Honestly, I'm not sure. It usually doesn't get below freezing here where I live, so I don't really have to worry about frost building up, but condensation definitely builds up on the mirrors, and that's basic. I mean, quite honestly, it's just as bad as frost because I can't see out of it. And I guess I could go wipe it off as opposed to scraping it off, but I don't. Either way, I think it'll make a difference. Nice to have it done. So last little update on a new project for the channel. It's not something I own, but I think we're going to be doing I think I'm going to be helping on a pretty sweet project for my uncle. Don't worry, still diesel content. It does involve an F450. I think I'll say that for now, let you guys ponder it. It should be a sweet project. It's something we've been wanting to do for quite a long time, and now we're finally getting around to doing it, and it's not something you see very often. It's something a lot of people have done, but something seeing in person, it's not something you hardly ever see. I don't think I've ever seen one of these types of trucks in person before, so it should be a fun project to work on, and I'll be taking you guys along with it. I think I'm going to end this video here. I don't want to ramble on too much longer. I have a tendency to do that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Like I said, everything I use on this truck, I try to link in the descriptions. If you're interested, I get the people asking me that all the time, where I got all my parts. They're linked in the description. If they're not, then let me know, and I will try to get it to you. Video's going up on Sunday morning again, so hopefully you guys are having a good weekend, and have a good weekend. If you're watching this somewhere down the road, hopefully things are going well. Yeah, I think I'm going to sign off for here now. Stay tuned for the new project coming on the channel. It should be pretty sweet. If you're not subscribed, subscribe so you don't miss it. It's going to be a beast. With that, I'm going to end the video. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good weekend.